Jesse, there's a lot going on this week.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking we need to rethink this whole Roaring Twenties thing. Okay, so everyone's talking about how, we are on the brink of a new Roaring Twenties. When you look at the Roaring Twenties of yesteryear, it came out of the Spanish flu pandemic. The economy got reawoken, and everyone wanted to go do stuff again because this pandemic had swept the country of 1918. And when it finally ended, it led to a decade of prosperity because people were cooped up for so long that they were hitting streets again and going back out.
When was Prohibition and gangsters? I thought that was the 20s.
I'm glad you brought that up because everyone's talking about how we're on the brink of the new Roaring Twenties. It's going to be Great Gatsby. It's going to be Great Gatsby of our time. It's going to be fantastic. Well, guys, I started doing some research. I got pretty excited. I'm like, hey, man, I'm ready for a Roaring Twenties. It's been a weird couple years. Yeah. It's all this weird political stuff. It's so divided. Can't we just have a decade where everyone's just hanging out, having a good time? Roaring Twenties. Yeah. We're back. It's going to be awesome. Right. Guys. Roaring Twenties weren't that cool. I'm going to go down the list. I did some research about why this. I'm not totally jazzed on this. Okay, the first one's obvious. Tommy guns and the mafia. We don't want any part of that. I don't want any part. The other thing is the fashion, Derek. To your point earlier, zoot suits. There's no way to look cool unless you're Steve Harvey. There is no looking cool in a zoot suit. It doesn't happen. They also had the lame. I'm a big hat guy. The Roaring Twenties had the lamest hat of any decade, okay? You got Newsies hats, fedoras, and those little bonnets that women wear. It's the worst hat decade of all time. I don't want any part of that.
Fedoras are still with us, man. What other fashion has been around for 100 years?
Yeah, but it's a bad sign. You see somebody in a fedora, you're like, uh-oh.
You're like, he's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Steve Harvey pulled one off at Versus. He had a nice
Steve Harvey is an outlier.
Steve Harvey is also not the standard of...
That's true.
Yeah.
And listen, I think it was Workaholics. It was one show where they established, look, if you got the major red flag, if there's more than 2 fedoras per crew, that's a bad crew. You don't want to be hanging out with, you don't want the party to come along and there's 2 fedora guys in it, okay? That is a serious red flag. That's all Roaring Twenties. Okay, here's another one. Steamboat Willie. That was the height of the Roaring Twenties. It was an 8-minute black and white cartoon. Totally lame. Okay, I looked at the Wikipedia page for the Roaring Twenties. Here's 2 of the people they have as breakout performers of the decade. Baby Peggy, who was an actual baby, and Bebe Daniels. I don't know who they are, but they obviously didn't make that big of an impact. Here's the other thing. You know what's huge in the Roaring Twenties, which I've long made the case was totally lame? The Olympics, okay? If you think the Olympics are lame now, you should go watch some Olympics from back in the day. Watch a gold medal vault, okay? I did this. I went in and watched Olympic highlights from the 20s and the 40s. The one thing that won the gold medal, there wasn't even tricks involved. It was somebody running down the track and literally just jumping over the vault and landing. And they won a gold medal for that. Now we're doing backflips. Everything about the Roaring Twenties was lame. Okay? Just throw out the whole narrative. Let's just create something new. Everyone get out, have fun, be healthy. But no, the Roaring Twenties, it's a big lie. It was super, super lame, everyone. Just ditch the metaphor. The new Roaring Twenties are going to be awesome. But bring none of this back.
I think what they're talking about is there's a big pandemic, and then everybody, it was a decade of prosperity and revelry in a way that America had not known up to that point.
And look what happened. It birthed the fedora, Cameron. That kind of unmitigated revelry. That kind of unmitigated revelry. We have that to thank for fedoras and zoot suits. So you tell me if you think it's a good idea for all to cut loose. Because people stop caring. They're like, hey, does this hat look cool? Obviously, objectively, it does not. You look like the person who's writing a screenplay at Barnes & Noble and is just striking up conversations about Jordan Peterson that no one wants to have. Okay? I'm sorry, Fedora guy. We have the Roaring Twenties to thank for that. Okay?
Jesse, do you really think that just because this was the general trajectory that happened 100 years ago with completely different pandemics, completely different administrations, cultural values, you feel like this is going to happen, the same thing is going to happen again?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of with Jesse, but go ahead, Jesse. I feel like I'm on the same side as you, bro. Because we just got done talking about dinosaurs and Neuralink. So,
yeah. look, history repeats itself, Tyler. It's going to be, we're going to see some of the, it's going to be the decade equivalent. Here's my concern. Everyone's going to be cutting so loose that no one's going to be thinking about the consequences. It's going to be the decade equivalent of that time that Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake wore denim suits to like the VMAs. Okay. We're going to look back in the moment. We're going to be like, this is the greatest decade ever. Look how dope we look. We're wearing matching denim. You know what? It's going to be a decade that ends up on a BuzzFeed listicle as a punchline 50 years from now. This is our chance to stop this Roaring '20s ridiculousness.
So what do you suggest?
Like another decade.
What do you suggest? Like, what is your what?
Tack back, everyone. Tack back the expectations. Don't just go crazy. Everyone's like, this is going to be the craziest summer ever. Let's ease into it. We saw what happened in the 20s when they did this.
Yeah. 1929 wasn't a good outcome.
You know what? Even suit tailors were like, hey man, this is going to be finally the pandemic's over. Get some shoulder pads in that blazer. Listen, just tack back, everyone. Ease into the decade. Okay, we're coming out of the pandemic. Just get back into it. We don't want to have regrettable choices like this.
I think you make a great point, Jesse. I think I'm with you on this one. I think you're spot on, bro. I feel like yeah,
good.
I'm with you.
Interesting.
I'm with you,
good.
Jesse.
Good. Ease back in, guys. Start in the shallow. This isn't
dip your toe in.
Exactly. This isn't. Hey, I'm going to be the tough guy and do a cannonball in the cold pool and just get my body ready for it. This is a decade. There's no shame in putting the feet in the shallow end for a little bit and getting your float on. That's all I'm saying. Ease in, people. We know what the outcome. We know what the outcome will be if you just go full on out of the gate. Just ease in. That's all.
I don't know, man. The pool analogy isn't working for me as a pool owner. I can't do the thing where you get in. I got to get full submersion because it's like it's colder if you go slow, in my mind. So I'm an all in or an all out kind of guy. I don't know about this easing in to the decade thing. I think you just go for it. You got one life to live. Burn hot and fast. It's a short life. Make the most of every day. Don't waste a decade easing into it. Come on, Jesse.
Yeah. Well. I'll say this: you'll be the one who has a regrettable fedora at the end of this thing, and me and Derek will be looking just fine. We will be looking just respectable. Okay. Because Derek and I eased in. Okay, we eased in. We slow played this thing. Okay.
All right.